All right, I have a word for you, and the word is be prudent, be wise, make wise decisions. In whatever thing that you do, do not rush to make a decision. Seek the wisdom of God. Seek the understanding. Just because somebody has said something, do not be rushed. Do not be in a rush to make a decision. Think through it. Now, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 3, it reads, "A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." Listen, it says that a prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. A lot of people have acted like simple men. A lot of people get punished into things that they were never supposed to get involved in. Do not allow punishment to come to your life because of the mistakes that you made or because of the mistakes that you are still making. Be prudent. Be wise. Now, just because you are anointed, just because you are a child of God, it does not mean that the enemy cannot attack you. He will attack you. He will come against you. But the scripture says, no weapon that is formed against you will prosper. But you need to be wise. You need to be prudent. Look at the father of Jesus, Joseph. The scripture says that in that time, Herod sought to kill the infant. He sought to kill the baby Jesus. But the angel of the Lord came to Joseph. And the angel of the Lord told Joseph to flee and run to Egypt. Jesus was anointed. Joseph was anointed. They could have called an army to deal with Herod, but they had to flee because they were prudent. They were wise. Just as in Proverbs 23, in Proverbs 22:3 says, "A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." Joseph was prudent. He foresaw evil when the angel of the Lord told him. He heard the voice. Another example I will give you, and this is another Joseph. This is another Joseph that we read in the Old Testament, who was in Egypt in captivity. It seems as though because he was sold as a slave, and he gets an encounter with Potiphar's wife, and Potiphar's wife tries to seduce Joseph. But Joseph was prudent. He was wise. He foresaw evil. And he decided to run away. But of course, for those that have read the story, you know that the wife found ways to manipulate the story. And she had Joseph in prison. Joseph was in prison. But God did not forsake Joseph, in a way that even while in prison, it was like he was in his place of destiny. Not that prison was his place of destiny, but he was in the process to his place of destiny, because in prison he met two young men who had dreams, and he interpreted. Now, these young men, Joseph we would not have met them while in Potiphar's house or the palace. He would never have encounter with them. But God orchestrated things. That the enemy had put something. He had put evil. He had plotted evil against Joseph. But God turned it around. That Joseph had to meet them in prison. And he interpreted their dreams. And when one of the men was released, it's like he remembered Joseph. Because at that time, the Pharaoh had a dream, and the dream he could not interpret it. And this young man remembered that in prison, there is a young man by the name of Joseph who was so good at interpreting dreams. So when Joseph is brought out of prison, he interprets the dream, and to cut the long story short is that there was famine that was to come all over the land, not only in Egypt, but it was like a worldwide famine, that even Israel was affected. And Joseph is promoted. So be wise. Be prudent. Elijah was prudent. Despite the fact that he was anointed. Despite the fact that this man could even call angels to destroy the enemies. He was prudent. That when Jezebel wanted to destroy Elijah's life, when Jezebel threatened Elijah, when Elijah heard of it, Scripture said he fled. He was prudent. This was a prophet of God. But he fled. And where he had gone to, he was provided. The angels provided him with food. God provided him. Be prudent. God could have spoken to you in a dream. God could have spoken to you through his word, through somebody of distraction that is coming in your life. But because you have not trained up your spirit to be prudent, you take things for granted. Listen, God can use anyone. God can even use a child to speak to you. God can even use a heathen to speak to you. God is not limited. The problem is that people limit God. That if God does not manifest in the way they think he manifests, they will not accept it as God. Because a lot of people think that if God speaks to them in another way, then it's not God. But you need to recognize the voice of God. You need to know that it is God that is speaking to you. And in a few weeks, I'm going to talk about how to recognize the voice of God. Because a lot of people hear God, but they can't recognize him. In a few weeks, I will have a live stream with you. And I believe it's going to be one of my first live streams that I will have with you. And I'll be teaching on how to recognize God's voice. And this is going to be a very powerful word. And you do not want to miss it. I will let you know about when I'm going to do the live stream. In the community tab, you need to be prepared for that, so that you do not miss out on some of the key elements, on some of the things that God has told you. And God speaks. He speaks to his children. He says, in the scripture says, my sheep hear my voice. So his sheep, all his sheep hear his voice. Well, I'm out of time, but I'm not out of good news. But go ahead and leave your comment, share this video with somebody else. Let somebody know of this truth. Let somebody be set free. And until next time, be blessed.